Go
My
Crickets!
God.
Go Crickets! What are the chances? What are the odds?
Well, you got enough of them. Oh my goodness, where am I? I'm out of focus. How can I be out of focus? I got the Go Cricket stuff on. I'll figure it out.
Right.
How you doing, man?
Good. You're looking focused now.
There you
can
go. I
read
got you
through
down
it.
better. Yeah, it's good. How are things? All's good.
All's good.
You just got
in
you
about
landed.
25 minutes ago. I walked in. So started my morning in Iowa doing lawn care for my parents at their house.
Okay.
And yeah, and then
now you're here.
Did all that. Drove to Chicago. Flew to Baltimore. Ready to rock and roll today.
All right, man. Hey, congratulations to your daughter. Fantastic event this week. I saw some pictures of graduation. Can't believe that she's graduated from college. It seems like, man, I mean, we've kind of gone through this thing together on some level, and just to see what our kids are doing these days, from when we started, just kind of connecting, it's really interesting. So very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Joe, when I first met you, Marissa was, I believe, in 6th grade.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
7th grade, maybe. Now she's middle school for sure, but now she's graduated from college. So it's crazy, right?
Isn't that something? Yeah, because Kale graduates on Saturday from high school, which is, I mean, just your
kids were little elementary kids when I first met you. So crazy. So that was a good weekend as always. And it's interesting, right? You're sitting there watching a graduation ceremony. It brings back memories and how many of those you went through as a principal and all those types of things. But it was awesome. Too quick though, as always, right? But it was fun. It was a great. I actually got to even golf with my son, which is kind of nice too. Yep, got to see my parents, hung with them, and so it was a great weekend. So no complaints there. And
good for you. Good for you.
In a couple of weeks we'll go back. But the little girl is now heading to Europe for a couple of weeks. Nice graduation gift there.
Where's she going?
All over the place. She's starting in Paris. She's going to fly into Paris and then spend a couple of weeks with her college roommate, her best friend, which was my AP's daughter. So they've been best friends ever since they were 2 years old. Yeah. And so I got to see all of them last night too. So that was awesome. Great.
Yeah.
So anyway, feeling blessed, that's for sure. But anyway, how about you?
Well, graduation this weekend. So and then it was so it's getting to be like that. Yeah, I'm not ready to be done. But this week, on Friday, I signed all of the diplomas. And so one of the things that's cool about signing the diplomas for the class of 2022 and having a son in the class of 2022, but one of the cool things for me is that I always just sit there with each one of the diplomas and just think about how these kids have impacted our community and hopefully what we've done to help them. But the fact that, what have they done to really impact everybody around? And I think the thing that I always say right before before I start signing them is, if I ever go through them and I don't know these kids well enough to know a story about them, or when I connected with them, or the conversations that we had with the parents or whatever, if I get to that point where I don't know who they are, then I got to move on. Like, then it's got to be done, because then I've essentially not, made any connection to the work that they're doing, which is essentially what we want to make sure that we are doing. So this year was a little different for me, because a lot of these kids that I was signing diplomas for, I've known a lot of them since they were in 1st grade, right? Because I got here when they were in 1st grade. So I've known a lot of them, 90% of them I've known since they were in 1st grade. But I've also coached about 15 of them, over the course of our time together. And so that was that to me. Aiden graduated a couple years ago, and it was great to connect and sign for his friends and that kind of thing, and him and everything. But this year was different because I had gotten to know a core group of these kids for a very, very long time. And so this was a little bit tougher. It was definitely a little bit tougher, but it was so fun though too, to be able just to sit there over a document and reflect on who they are, who they've become, and then sign it. And just it's a cool thing. So this year I did, when I was signing them, I actually did some audio. So I had a video of me signing, and then I just did some audio just saying congratulations and thank you. And here's one of the things that I really remember. And these are some things that we're going to really miss here. And I sent those to a couple parents this weekend because one was having a graduation party already, and a couple more I saw when I was having a conversation. So it was great to just their reaction was really cool too. So that was about my weekend, man. That was about it.
That was really awesome. One of the things I love about you, Joe, I've always loved about you is that, no matter what the situation is or what the event is, I love how your mind thinks like, what is one way that I could make this even a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more special. So I know we didn't even talk about this because we both literally got on 3 minutes before we were going to jump on. So let's talk about this from a leadership perspective, right? These are great leadership lessons just as we think through this in terms of what it looks like to be a school leader during this time of the year. We know how busy it is, but as we come upon graduation, all those things that come with graduation. So let's talk about this. We'll go in any direction we want here. Right. So for those audience members that are on, so thank you for joining us. Bruce, thank you for the nice comment. I appreciate that. I see we have a few people on. So let's talk about just graduation weekend. Let's just talk about that. Whether you've already had it, you're in the middle of it, it's coming up. Let's just take it from any perspective we want. So let's take some questions from the audience tonight on graduation weekend. So you can go in any direction you want to go with this. I'll go ahead and start it now that you just brought up some things, Joe, that were on my mind. From a leadership perspective, number one is, as you reflect back on your career, you always think, God, there's things I wish I could have done differently. And I wish I would have done this, and I wish I would have done that, because that's just kind of what we do to ourselves sometimes. But there are also some things I feel like I did actually well. And so one of those things I know that, as you said, Joe, from a leadership perspective, is one thing that was always really personal. When I was a kid, I remember I'd always get these certificates and, whatever it was you were getting at some award. And so, you could tell as soon as you got it, you could tell it was just a stamp. Somebody just stamped it on there. I'm like, this person doesn't even know who I am or even know I even got this award, right? So that was one thing I committed to as a leader. I said, no matter what, I always remember when I first took my first principalship, they gave me the stamp, right? The stamp with the pad. I said, no, I won't need that. I'm going to sign everything. And they're like, you do know how many things you'll have to sign? I said, yep, it's important to me because I want to be able to sign it, number one. But then throughout the year, it helped me get to know all the names, right? So that's always a good benefit from that. So for those of you who are signing instead of stamping, that is a tremendous benefit from there. And like you said, then you can start realizing, I don't even know who this kid is, right? Whether you're, whatever the certificate is you're signing, right? Whether it's music or fine arts or athletics or whatever it happens to be, right? Those types of things are important. The second thing, and this reminded me yesterday. Now, I have to be careful here because I'm talking about my alma mater, the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't want to be hypercritical, but you do notice it, right? And you can't help but notice it. So one thing that was always really important to me is that every student has gone through the entire career as a student, and they're going to get one moment to walk across that stage. They're going to get one opportunity to have their name read. They're going to get one opportunity to have their diploma to them, shake the hands, whatever it is, walk across that stage. And for every member in that audience, they get to be, basically in front of the entire school or school community or whatever the community is. They get their one moment, right there in front of everybody. And I can't tell you, I still remember my name, Joe, being just chopped up when I was a student. And that was another thing that was super important to me, is like, no, I'm going to learn every name. I'm going to learn how to pronounce every name. And I'm going to make sure in that moment that grandma or mom or dad or family relatives, when they hear their child's name read, it's going to actually be their name. And it's going to sound like their name, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of, what unique name we bring to it. So that is one thing I know I did well. And so for those of you out there, obviously back in the old days, I actually used to have a tape recorder there, actual tape recorder with a cassette. And during rehearsal, I'd actually push it down and every kid would say it. And I'd ask them to, even say it again, phonetically spell it, all those types of things. And literally I'd go home and I'd practice every one of them. I had every kid, I'd write it in my notes and I'd practice it. And then when that day came, I was going to make sure I had all those names read. So again, I don't know whoever reads the names at graduation at your school, if you are a high school administrator, but that is important. It's important to families. And I was reminded yesterday as I watched this person continuously chop one name up after another, including my daughter's name, who I didn't even realize. I think she must be French now or something, because that name that came across was so bizarre to me. But I mean, it was fine. But, again, it was just a reminder that
something that you remember
are important. They're
Right.
important, right? And they're important in terms of leadership. So I've got a few things on graduation, but I'm going to let you chat first, and we'll keep circling back on this topic. In the meantime, audience members, thank you. If you want to jump in with a question or a comment or reflection about graduation, let's start there, and we'll see where it goes, regardless whether you're elementary or middle, because I have some comments about that level as well and what their part is when it comes to graduation.
Mm-hmm. So I smiled when you said that, when you sign everything, and I feel the same way. And I have been here for 12 years, and Thursday was the first day that I had to use a stamp on an award. There was like 6 or 7 awards that were given out, and I was out of town, and I felt like my heart was ripped out. It was ripped out. I've never once used the stamp for anything, and I had to because I was completely out of town, so I couldn't even come back and get it done. But it killed me, and I just felt awful. So I totally agree, and that's why I spend so much time with the diplomas, because it's important, to make sure that and you can reflect on all these kids and their contribution and their parents' contribution, and and I love when I see the parents on Saturday that I'll tell them the story of me hanging out and talking about and just looking at that diploma and talking about the second grade, whatever it was, or the third grade cardboard challenge that they built a pinball machine or a skee ball machine, and how excited they were, in third grade, and now they're graduating. I mean, to me, that's really cool. So the more that we can do with that. But I think the other thing that when it comes to graduation, there are 2 components that we want to keep in mind. One is, are we creating a moment for the person that's there, that is going to walk across the stage, that that they know and understand what it's going to look like. That's their moment, just like you had mentioned, that's theirs. But are we also creating an environment where the people who are coming up see some of the cool things that are happening, and they want to be part of those things? I think about something like the senior walk that we'll do on Friday, where the high school kids get their cap and gown on, and then they walk through the elementary school and they walk through the middle school, and the kids come out and the teachers come out, and our kids love that. But I think the other kids love it. I think the elementary kids love seeing these older kids come through, and a lot of these older kids in our building are working in those classrooms during the day. So that thing takes forever for us sometimes, because these little kids will not let their high school, youth group, they won't let them even go through. They just want to sit there and talk to them the whole time. So I think those things, those traditions that really speak to who you are as a school community, are truly important. And we want to do everything that we can to make sure that 2 things happen with us, because we're so invested in moments, right? What are we doing to make sure that the kids' first school experience is something that they'll never forget? And what are we doing to make sure that their last school experience is something that they want to talk about for forever, to be really honest? And I think we can create those moments wherever we go, but you have to be really intentional about what it looks like. And I think I think it goes beyond leadership. It's I don't want to say a lifestyle, but you think about how you create moments for people all the time. I was just at the gas station, and I saw one of our alumni came up, and he started, pumping gas and everything like that. And I snuck into the gas station, paid for his gas, took off, didn't let him come up and talk to me. I just wanted to give him a moment. Like, I got your gas. I don't want to tell you, but when he went in there, and the person behind the desk, who's also a student right now, said, "Your gas has been taken care of. Don't worry about it. You can take off." Like, that's a moment for that kid, right? And you always have to be thinking about what that looks like. That doesn't mean you have to buy everybody's gas. It just means that you have to have an opportunity, or be intentional about what it looks like to create a moment that people are going to talk about.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the comments here, so thank you for those who are on here tonight. If you have a particular idea or an experience that your district or school has done or will be doing, Jenny Bloom, thank you for sharing yours. That is awesome. And you know what I love about that, Jenny? It's a reminder again, right? When one school reaches out to another school in their district or in their community and invites them or shares something with them and allows them to be a participant, in other words, to build this community, it is so powerful. So again, it's a reminder again for all of us that are school leaders. If we have other buildings in our district, how are we being inclusive? How are we including? How are we inviting? How are we being intentional about that? And I just think that's really, really important. So that's really awesome. So if you have an idea, I'm going to share some different topics, whether we're talking about senior prom, whether we're talking about senior awards, we're talking about after prom events, we're talking about graduation or even completion, right? Completion for middle school, 8th grade completion. We could be talking about elementary completion. We can be talking about kindergarten graduation, right? Some of those events are so awesome to see, right? Little 5-year-olds walking around, little cap and gown, but and even graduation parties. Is there anything that your community, your district, your school does that you think is unique or special? If it is, either share it in the chat box or let us know. We're going to throw the link in here. If you want to jump in here and just share one idea that you think is awesome, that you think it'd be really cool if, you know, in other words, other districts or schools did it, go ahead and jump in and join us in the studio. We'd love to hear from you. So let's take a couple. Joe, if you're reading those, I'm going to check these out as well. So go ahead.
So one of the cool things that we've done, and I think it's stuck, and I loved it, is we ask kindergarten kids to give advice to our high school graduating seniors. So we video like 4 or 5 kids that are going to give advice to these seniors as they go out into the world. And these kindergarten kids are the best. Like one of them was, never go into a cave because you could get eaten by a bear. And then the next one was, never, ever run on a busy highway because you could get run right over. Like I was like, yeah, of course. Don't get eaten by a bear and don't run out on the highway. What else do you really need in life, Jimmy? Like that's essentially it. If you get that, you're good to go. But those have been, if you can get like kindergarten kids or 4-year-old kindergarten or 1st grade kids or whatever to just give 3 or 4 pieces of advice and cut those up and then put those in for the high school seniors as they're, you know, on their last day or whatever. Man, those are fun. And the things that these kids say will absolutely like blow your mind. It's so fun to listen to them talk. I'm gonna have to find that video. I put that in one of the walk to work videos it was maybe the year before. So I'll see if I can tweet that out this week and just so people have it, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, or what are even end of the year events that your school does that thinks it's really cool, right? Like I know like right now during this time of the year, you'll see a lot of elementary schools who, you know, they have a field day or something like that, field events or something where every kid gets to participate, because after all, what we're talking about here is building community, right? Inviting others to build this greater community and just doing things that are really unique to your community that create these experiences for our young people and families to always be able to look back and carry the banner, right? Carry the banner for our schools in the district, because we created an experience for them that to this day, they still say, wow, right? How cool is that?
Right.
And so
you're creating an opportunity for them, because when it comes down to it, they're going to talk about you at some point. You might want to have them do something, you know, make sure that they're talking the right way about the work that you're doing. So, and sometimes it's those are the things they're not going to remember. They'll remember games and championships and stuff like that, but they also remember bus rides and their last interaction as you walk out. And I think I think we got to make sure that we're spending time on creating the moments that people talk about well beyond the event. And that's not just a graduation thing, Jimmy. That's across the board. Right. How are we intentionally providing moments that can build momentum for us? Because we don't have a lot of people building momentum for ourselves, right? So how can we help each other create momentum for the work by making sure that we're intentional about creating momentum for the work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking just even in terms of elementary and middle schools, right? Because it was different for me as a high school principal, because I always felt, well, yeah, it's nice that I'm at the end of the road, but our elementary teachers, right, and our elementary staff and our middle school teachers and staff, they played just an integral role as high school people, right? And So how can we be more intentional, and what does that look like? How do we get more people from elementary schools and middle school staff to come attend an event that is recognizing those students who have completed basically their entire career through a system
Yeah.
that those elementary and middle school teachers played a part in that as well? And so how can we be more intentional? And again, sometimes we have to think outside the box, depending when those ceremonies are, depending what they look like, depending on the logistics that go in. I mean, I know there's a lot that goes in there, but I've always believed if a community feels something is important enough, they'll figure out a way to make it happen.
Right.
Make it happen for anybody and everybody that wants to be a part of that. And so how can we do that? Now, I know some areas are, they're limited in their seating. And I know sometimes people thought, it's just respectful. I'd rather give that ticket, make sure a family member's there. But, can we broadcast that graduation? I thought that was really important. For those schools that still do it in an arena that isn't air conditioned, how can we broadcast it to a place where it is air conditioned? Some places do it on campus, some places do it off campuses, depending on the size of your school. I mean, we can have graduation, for ceremonies for 60 kids, or we can have them for 700, 900, 1,000 kids, right? So again, depending on size of the districts, we know there's a lot that goes into that. But how can we make it more personal? How can we personalize that experience for not just our students, but also for our staff as well? And so, again, ideas and thoughts that you guys have out there, if you want to jump into the studio and talk about it, that's easier than it is to write about it. We'd love to have you jump in or even comment on what people are sharing. Jenny Bloom, thank you again. And Amy, thank you for sharing your ideas and thoughts, and everybody else in there. So,
one of the things that Amy had mentioned, like the Celebration of Stars, top 10% of the graduating class gets to surprise a district staff member that made a big impact on them, and then they have a celebration banquet. That's a really cool idea. One of the things that we've seen a lot, I've seen out actually in Iowa, 2 districts in Iowa that were doing it, where they just did that for all the kids. All the kids got a chance to get their cap and gown on that were graduating and go down to any teacher at any level that had an impact on their lives, and just say thank you, write them a letter and say thank you. And I think that's important. We do stuff with sports teams where you have senior night, you have parents night, you have, and some groups have celebrate an educator night where you get a chance to bring your really impactful educator to a game and celebrate them at a game. I got a chance to do that a couple of years ago for kids that weren't even in the district, or not in this district. They were in a different district, and they asked me to come and be part of their night at a basketball game. And I was just so honored to be there. But what a moment! What a cool moment that I'm never going to forget. Yeah. Just because it was one of those things that's out of the norm, and that goes back to the idea that people remember events that break script, right? That raise the stakes, and that they put yourself in a situation where it doesn't, it doesn't put you, it's not what you normally would, know and understand. So if you can break the script for, what traditionally it was, you're going to have a much better chance to have people remember what it looks like. So if it's meaningful, if you break the script, and if it raises the stakes in terms of the emotion, there's a better chance for it to be talked about well beyond the event in terms of which it happens.
Hey, Jenny, what you put in there is a great example of a culture builder, right? These are events or activities or things that you do at your school that are just awesome, right? That people come, they're like, they walk away, they just have this great experience. And it just, this whole idea of inclusion and making every student in the building feel important and feel like they have a sense of belonging. And that's what we're talking about right now. How do we create these moments, these events, especially at this time of the year? There seem to be a lot of different ideas. But again, feel free to jump in and share something even throughout the school year. What's something unique, your school, your district, one that you used to work in, one that you heard of, one that you saw on social media? What are some really cool ideas that we could share with the audience, especially this time of the year? But again, that they can include for next year as they plan and go into a new school year. I see Amy's throwing up something in there. Well, I'll take a look at that. I'll share one idea, Joe, I always loved, really cool too, and that is using the cafeteria as a classroom. And the reason I share that is because I think this is a great way of building community. We see so many events that are school that a lot of students often don't get to be a part of or don't see. I'll give you some examples. If you're a middle school staff member, right, or administrator, if you're a musician in 7th grade and you play in the jazz band, how many of your peers have actually ever watched you or saw you play an instrument or do some sort of performance, right? I know we have these events, but I've always been a big believer that sometimes, and this is the balance, right, between how much class time do we sacrifice, how much time do we disrupt the schedule
Yeah.
to bring a school-wide performance for every student to have the opportunity to see it. So if we have kids that are in theater, how often do their peers ever get to see them in the theater, right? And so this is a balance, but I grew up, listen to me, I kind of grew up. I started my career in a school of the arts, and I thought it was one of the most amazing things, obviously, because it was focused on the arts, that we would always take quote unquote class time, because we thought that experience was important enough to show the arts to all kids, give every kid the opportunity to learn how to behave at a theater, what a performance looks like, to inspire kids to want to be a part of that. Especially today, if we're trying to get more kids involved, how do we inspire these kids other than get them in front and let them see, oh my God, I never realized how awesome that was. Oh, I'd love to do that someday. And so I know there's a balance between that class time and all these types of things. But again, I still think it's really, really important to give kids those opportunities. But the cafeteria, Joe, is actually a great place. I still remember doing show choir and bridge building and the jazz band, and let's see what else, robotics, these things, even
drumline,
right? To do this during lunch, because you have a contained audience, and you could just simply grab a microphone and say, hey, boys and girls, for the last 10 minutes here, if you want to, we're going to go ahead. We have a special performance for you by the 7th grade, 8th grade, whatever, jazz band, and they get their moment, right? They get their moment. And that's what we talk about this Merchant of Hope is, we create this opportunity for every kid to have an opportunity to leave their legacy, right? And yet it's a recruiting tool.
Yep.
It's the opportunity to showcase what great things are going on at your school. And it's also an opportunity for these kids to have their moment where they get to perform in front of their peers. Because let's be honest, they've never had an audience that big, Joe. They get to perform in front of 600 kids or even 120 kids, whatever it is in the cafeteria is a lot better than just mom and dad and grandma and grandpa who come to their evening theater or the evening production, right? So it's a different way of doing these types of day performances, but even during lunchtime is a great place to do that as well.
We've done a couple of things that actually last week our guitar class was playing in different areas of the school, like throughout the course of the day, which was really neat. They'd be in the commons, then they'd be, like in a hallway, they'd be like an open space where people could just hear them playing. It was really cool. And it really, I think it just kind of heightens the area as well, which is really kind of fun. We also, what was last year now I think about it, we have an open courtyard, and there we had like a lunch series of, if you wanted to come and sing and or play an instrument during that time after lunch, we were able to do that, and we had some just incredible performances from our kids that just wanted to go out and do their thing and kind of make their mark. It was really cool. So that's a fun thing that we have done in the past, and I'm certain that we'll do it moving forward too.
Yeah, I remember even having like a dessert concert. We had a courtyard also. We'd have a dessert concert. We'd have the orchestra, let's say out there, or the choir. And then we'd set up tables out in the courtyard there and make it really nice. And we'd have desserts while the music was playing. It was just, just different ways of really making, those experiences, for all kids. And again, these are things they'll remember, right? That's the key. This is what they take away. I mean, I still have kids talk about, remember the one time we did the flash dance in the cafeteria? I mean, that was like 2006, people, and they're still talking about it.
Right.
We still got the video. I still watch it every once in a while. So these things are a big deal to kids when they have those moments. I remember the ice bucket challenge was going around there. Oh my God, that was crazy. All the different things that were happening in schools. But again, all these different things that build pride, right? To build pride in their school, that they want to be a part of it, that it builds community. And that's really what it's all about. So.
And being intentional about what that looks like is really important, because there's a lot of times throughout the course of the year where the day-to-day operation of what you do takes you away from being intentional about creating moments, right? Because there's so much stuff on the list. And if you're totally bought into the list and the only thing that you're doing is the stuff on the list, and being intentional about creating memories and moments is not on that list, it gets pushed off for all these other stuff that you're doing. So how are you making sure that you, as the leader in that space, are not only providing an opportunity for others, but you got to create some opportunities for yourself too? you've got to create some opportunities that you're going to remember, things that you can kind of get out there, make sure that you can create moments with these kids too, because honestly, this job gets to be really, really isolating and really, really lonely. And until you put yourself in a position to be there and connect and create moments with kids, then you know what? You're not going to do it. I went a couple years ago. We went paintballing with the senior boys challenged the administration to a paintball game. Like, I mean, you think I'm not going to go to that? Of course I'm going to go to that. And guess what? They're still talking about it. Remember that time we got to, shoot paintballs at San Filippo and Saransky? Like, that's something that they're going to remember. Now, I got welts, but that was worth the welts because they're going to be talking about it for a long time.
Yeah. Hi, did you know, Joe, that we have someone here all the way from the North Pole on our show tonight?
We do. I saw that. Bruce
Bell, North Pole, Alaska.
That's
North Pole. That's right.
I think that might be our farthest viewer away, Jimmy.
That's right. Absolutely. So I love these ideas. I love what people are sharing on here. Keep sharing your ideas, things that you've experienced, things that you do, things that you've been a part of, things that you've heard about. Again, any of these events that go on at the schools that are pretty special and bring great memories for people are pretty awesome. They can just be about anything. You kind of mentioned earlier, Joe, again, where you have, I think you mentioned like cardboard races or whatever it was you did. I think we've talked about that on the show before, these little cardboard ideas or trebuchet contests or anything that you're doing. But Joe, let me ask you a question. What was the craziest thing you ever did to motivate kids to reach some goal? Do you remember what that was? Whether it's a teacher, as a principal, as a superintendent, what's the craziest thing you've ever did? Besides Kiss the Pig, because I you probably kissed a lot of pigs in your lifetime. But
I didn't kiss a pig. I've never kissed a pig, but I think I don't know if it was anything to reach a goal. The paintball, without hesitation, was probably the craziest because I had never paintballed before, and I walked out. I just got pummeled. I was maybe alive for like maybe 17, 22 seconds. Everybody was ready to go. But we've done things like I've slept on top of the roof, after getting a number of whatever, they had to reach a certain goal or whatever, or little things like that. But I haven't done anything that I would consider to be holy cow. I got pied in the face a couple times, and it's little things like that were great. I got dunked at the kids. Oh, I have a kid. There's a 4th grade kid here, and name's Carson. He's a fantastic kid, just a fantastic kid. And when he was, my goodness, he was in 4K. He was 4-year-old kindergarten. We were at the local village, like the fair or whatever, and I was in the dunk tank, and he dunked me, and he like legit dunked me. It wasn't like run up and hit the thing, dunk. Like he got me, and I wasn't prepared for it because this kid's not going to be able to hit the thing. Hits the thing, I go down. Well, guess what, Jimmy? He's in 4th grade, and I'm just going to tell you right now, there's not a day, not one day since that day that one of us doesn't say something about dunking him or him dunking me. Not one day. And he's been here the whole time, and I love it, and I lean into it. And when he says, I dunked you, I'm like, no, you didn't. I don't know what he's talking about. That thing was so fun. You must have just forgot it. I did. I dunked you. No, you didn't. There's no way. And then I turn around. I'm like, no, I think I dunked you. I think that's what happened. I dunked you. You just forgot about it. No, I dunked you. And we just go back and forth. But it happens every day. And I love it. And I lean into it. And I love it. I love it. Right? But so I think we're just creating memories and moments. And he's going to talk about that well beyond his school time. Like the crazy superintendent with the bald head couldn't figure out the fact that I dunked him 5 years after I dunked him.
That's right. I remember showing up for the dunk booth contest with the full suit on. People like, you're going to wear that in there? I said, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're going to get people to want to dunk it.
That's exactly right.
Who's going to be the first one? Let's go. Bring it on. Talk smack. See what you got. Right?
Yeah. The problem with that was that they kept running up.
I saw Travis put it in the chat, right? I've seen that one too, be the duct tape on there. I just think that one's kind of cool, right? The duct tape up on the wall. It's kind of incredible. Yeah. Travis, congratulations on that. I want to see a picture of that, so please send those along. I'd like to see proof and evidence of that. Not that I'm doubting you. I just want to see you duct tape to a wall. I might use it later in some capacity.
Right. So. That's right.
But I know I slept on the roof one night.
Yeah.
I did that. Slept on the school roof after a competition. That was a great time.
My high school principal did that with me.
Yeah, played let's see, I think we played Battleship that night, played a lot of Monopoly, stayed up all night. So, yep, do a lot of that. I know there's a lot of overnights in schools that people do that. I've done hide and go seek. I've done the Hunger Games in the high school.
Oh,
That was pretty awesome. Dress up and then have the whole high school to run around, and great ability to hide in high school. Lots of places to hide, Joe. Lots of places to hide.
and you know where they all are because you've been chasing these kids.
That's right. That's right. I know where they're all at. So,
yeah.
But yeah, those are definitely cool memories that we have, right? So let me ask you this, Joe. Now, I mean, we can talk about that. People can keep sharing some ideas in there. But and by the way, Travis, that is awesome. Did you see the thing about the raising the money? That's pretty cool, right? Rockathon to benefit a specific cause, right? 24 grand a year. Wow, that's awesome. Good job, Travis Bloom. Way to go, buddy. Way to go. Well, of course, he's from Pennsylvania. I mean, that's what Pennsylvanians do, right? Cool stuff like that. So congratulations. But Joe, what's a downside to this year with all these things? What's some negative? I don't want to say negative, but what's I guess it could be a negative, but what's a downside? What's a challenge? What's the other side of it, right? What are some things that or what are some things that are imposed challenges, and what are some things we can do differently, and why is that, and that kind of thought. So I'll start with one. I was in a school here recently that the adults, I'll say the adults, that's us, we're talking about, again, frustrated with some kids, and they weren't going to allow the kids to go on an end of the year field trip. So we started having this conversation. And the further I dug into it was, well, talk to me a little bit about this student or these students, right? And Joe, this one broke my heart, but I'm sure you've seen this before, is that some of these students had never been on a field trip because you have to earn them. Yeah. And because they hadn't earned them, guess who never gets to go on the field trip? And that's always a heartbreaker, right? That's a heartbreaker. I know there's challenges with that. I know there's the worry of, well, what are we going to do if this student does this or this student does that? There are some different circumstances, and I get it. But at the end of the day, I always say this. If kids are never given the opportunity, I mean, I was one of those kids, Joe. I can't tell how many times I was pulled out of a program as a kid because, I was too hyper. I was making too much noise. And if we're never going to give kids the opportunity to be a part of an event because we're worried about their behavior or be able to go on their field trip, then when do they ever get those experiences? And I really struggle with that. And so my feeling was that we do whatever it takes. If that means that there has to be some adult, I would think, that has a good relationship with that kid, then I'm going to figure out a way to get that adult coverage. If I have to do it myself, or we're going to do something, or we're going to hire somebody, or even reach out to the parents and invite them to come along as well. Whatever it is we got to do, right? Every student, every day, whatever it takes. Yeah. But it just breaks my heart. And I know adults don't do this intentionally, but I always say this, Joe. I know for a fact, that when we sat in that interview chair, if someone would have said, hey, so we have this question for you, how would you handle the situation? There isn't a single individual in the interview chair that would have said, I don't think those kids should ever be allowed to go.
Nope.
They don't know how to behave. They shouldn't be allowed to go. Not a single damn adult would have ever said that.
I agree.
We now have adults doing that. And I get it. I'm not judging them. I'm not being critical. I know they're frustrated. I know they worry. I know they don't know what to do. But gosh darn it, bring a group of adults together. If we as adults who are talented, committed, passionate, freaking educated, if we can't figure this out, hell, nobody's ever going to figure it out. And that's the one that just really eats at me all the time. And yet I still see these values of inclusion. Really, we're violating them every time right here, right? Again, I'm not saying a kid shouldn't ever have a different alternatives, consequence one time or something, but every time, oh my God, it breaks my heart. So,
I think if we give, I think the biggest, not the biggest thing, but a big thing in that conversation is, have we given them the opportunity? And what are we doing to make sure that they have the opportunity to have kids never have gone on a trip is like that? Well, I mean, what are we doing? Let's create a memory for these kids in terms of what they do. And if we can come up with what the parameters are and meet those parameters, whatever they are, then let's figure out a way to do it. I think our biggest, there hasn't been a lot of negative pieces. I think that the expectation has been heightened because of what's happened the last couple of years. So a couple of years ago when COVID was like, we were right in the middle, we were trying to get people, we were trying to create an event that they could have graduation. And we had graduation where they were spread out. We did it outside, and you could have a couple people, in a spot, whatever. But within that, a couple of new traditions came up, and that was like, the signs in the yards and the signs downtown and the pictures everywhere, and we delivered lunches to celebrate seniors, and like all the things that we tried to do for seniors just to help them out and get through it. Those now become expectations for every year to get those things done. And there's nothing wrong with any of them, but we also want to make sure that they're coming from the right spot too. And so I think a lot of really great ideas have come from that. But man, it hit us pretty hard when all of a sudden we're like, well, now we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're going to there's never going to be a graduating class that doesn't have signs right down Main Street, Fall Creek at all. I mean, people love that. They absolutely love it. So yeah, I don't know if there's been a lot of negative pieces with what we've tried to do, but it has heightened the expectation of what we're going to do, and we got to make sure that A, we can fund it, and B, that it's coming from the right place so it doesn't become overwhelming, and then it's done it's not done fully to move it forward. So we got to be very careful about that.
Yeah, I was just looking at the comment by Jenny Bloom in here. It's a reminder again, right? A lot of these, we were talking about the day events as opposed to the evening events, and there are a lot of people who aren't able to attend in the evening. I also know there's people who aren't able to attend during the day, right? And that's the challenge. And again, I don't think it's an either or. I think what we do is we're very intentional. I think we're very transparent. We explain to our families and our community why we do what we do and why we do it. I think we provide multiple opportunities on both sides, right? We do it sometimes this way, sometimes we do it this way, and sometimes we do it this way. Because we know there are parents that work first shift, second shift, and third shift, right? And so what we're trying to do is create opportunities for all students. We're communicating the dates and the times way in advance because we're hopeful that if you know the day and time and when it's going to be, by us communicating more effectively and from a longer period away, then maybe we'll be able to make opportunities to maybe get some time off, right? To be able to attend those events. So I do think all those things are really important, especially how we provide opportunities again for more parental involvement.
Yeah,
I do that a lot. I mean, I wish we could get more parents involved, and we see these things about family engagement, but I also think we have to kind of sometimes reflect on that and challenge ourselves: is what are we doing differently to get people involved?
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry.
And what does it look like, Jimmy?
Like, an email home, an email blast. I'm sorry, but that's not going to work with many of our families. So let's get up, pick up the phone. I don't care if we have to take a part of a professional development day for an hour and ask every one of our staff members to go make 5 phone calls, and let's give them the time. Let's give them the time to be able to do that. Don't ask them to do it on their own time, but say, hey, what if we gave you the time? And why don't we go and make calls? Let's come back and report. And did we get a better result? And I always thought we got a better result when we're really intentional. So how can we personally pick up the phone? Because I think, again, we make assumptions that if parents don't come, that somehow it's something negative.
Right.
Well, not necessarily something negative. We don't even know why they're not attending, but let's call and find out why. If anything, we're still building that relationship. We're making that connection. And they may not come that time, but they might come in the future just because of that connection. But it also helps us understand the story, and therefore hopefully less likely to judge about why parents aren't involved as much as we'd like them to. Let's not make assumptions that they don't care is basically the bottom line. So.
Well, and we have to understand, we have to ask the question how they want to be involved. Because when we say we want you to be involved, but it's always under our terms, then what are we really asking them to do? And that's not even like, well, we really like you to come to this. We'd like you to be more involved in this. We'd like you to be more involved. Well, they might have some stuff going on that doesn't make them feel good in a school at all. So are there things that we need to do to go to them? Is there, being involved doesn't mean that you have to be here walking the hallways of the school. It just means that we want to have you involved in the education of your child. So what does that look like for you? And what do you want it to look like? Have we asked them that, right? If we're saying we want more parent involvement, but we haven't asked them what do they want out of this, then it's not a partnership at all. And if we're going to talk about true partnerships between parents and family, or parents and schools, then we have to be willing to ask the question about what that looks like for them, in addition to what it looks like for us.
Yeah, it's a great reminder, Joe, not just with families, but also with businesses, right? I always felt bad that we ask so much of businesses, but it tends to be a one-way street. There's got to be something in it for them too, right?
Yeah.
And we got to be really intentional in that and supporting that. But and also the why, right? Why are they not involved, right? And that goes to Bobby's comment on here about, hey, if we don't know that story, maybe they've had an experience also, and maybe we might be the first one who actually reached out to them, and we might be the first, people in a long time that have actually, been intentional in calling them and having a conversation. Who knows, maybe we can win, quote unquote, those parents back or those families back, and maybe they'll start attending. But again, you're right, Joe, because I know my family, my parents didn't go to my parent conferences either, because quite frankly, they got tired of hearing the same comments over and over. Jimmy tends to be a little hyper during the school
right,
day,
right. He doesn't work to his full. He doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, all they do is
he doesn't work to his full
potential. They get scolded every time they go. Does my kid ever do anything right?
Right.
Does he ever do anything right?
I could have answered that one for you, and I've only known you for 10 years, man. I'm telling you right now, like.
Isn't that funny, right? That these personal experiences that you have as a kid yourself, and those things that you still remember, and they still affect you, right? They still affect you. That's a reminder. Everybody has a story, and why do people respond the way they respond? So when they get kind of defensive or hurt or upset, it probably triggers some experience, some memory they have of something, and they thought, no, not doing that, not doing that. So
no, I agree.
It's always really interesting.
Asking the question though, Jimmy, is something that I don't think we do enough, but it does. The experiences that, and what you just said, it brings us right back to the beginning of how are we creating moments and memories that people are going to talk about. If we're the one, if we're the principal, if we're the superintendent, if we're the teacher that takes the extra effort to call and ask, how do you want to be involved? What can we do to help you be involved however you want to be involved? We've now created a moment for that family. And if we create a moment for that family, they're going to tell somebody else about that moment. And that's not why you do it, but it does help momentum, right? Because now you put yourself in a position to keep building and building, as opposed to having people say, well, it's just like, this is how it was when I was in school. I'm sure it's just the way that, and it's just that way now. And you can say, or that parent can say, well, Sanfilippo actually called us and asked us about this. And, and I don't remember getting a call from my superintendent when I was a kid, not a good one anyway. I mean, so I think we want to be really cognizant of how are we being intentional about breaking the script that they've always had. If the script that they've always had is a negative experience, and then we want to get upset with them because they're not coming into the place that gave them that bad experience, who are we? Right? We might have had nothing to do with it. They could have been in a different town with a different group of people, and it had nothing to do with us. That does not change the way that they walk into the school, because it's still the same feeling. So if we know that, if we understand that, then we got to figure out a way to kind of, bridge the gap and create the partnership. I always think about it this way with our teachers. Think about this. We've had one really cool thing that happened with me this year, that with us, we had an awards banquet a couple weeks ago. And during the awards banquet, the kids got a chance to go up and say, I'm going to be attending UW, whatever, and then I'm going to go into this and so forth and so on. And here's what I hope to do when I grow up. The coolest thing happened during these conversations. Kids would go up there, and 4 of the kids that went up there said that they wanted to be teachers. Okay. But they didn't just say that. They said they wanted to be a teacher, and they want to come back here to teach. And that just, my heart exploded, because it wasn't just about teaching. It meant that they made a connection with the people here, and they want to be part of this group that moves them forward. Now, the opposite holds true too, because the question that we ask then is, think about your graduating class. How many of them are going to go into education, right? You're probably looking at about 10% of the overall class, which essentially means that 90% of the kids that are getting out of here aren't rushing back to get back in here, right? These are the people that become the parents that are bringing kids into your school. So what are you doing to make sure that they still feel like they can have a good conversation? They can have a good experience when they come back, because not everybody's coming back, right? Not everybody's choosing a profession that makes them want to come back. And even the 4 people that were in this awards ceremony, that's 4. There's 60 graduates right now, and there's not a ton of them beyond that are going into education. It's just what it is.
That's right. Well, hey, listen, Joe, as always, it's a pleasure. Look, we always say this. We feel like we probably covered this topic. I want to thank our people in the audience tonight for chiming in and sharing what you had to share. Just want to say, again, for those people that do watch the show, if you yourself have a graduate, if you yourself are in a
You
school
might be.
right now that's experiencing the graduates of people that are really important to you, right? That are special. These are kids that you've had for a long time. Maybe even some kids that we thought, I worry if they'll ever get that opportunity. We worry about them. We worry about them. So God bless them. And God bless you for all the work that you do to continue to champion for our kids and keep believing in them. But Joe Sanfilippo, I know that you have a graduate, so that's going to be coming up. I know that's going to be weighing heavy on your heart, but that is pretty awesome. And so I'll let you close it out with what that sounds like, feels like. I'm done, Joe. I am all done. And by the way, just remember, after my daughter graduated yesterday, I got an immediate pay raise, and I feel really freaking good about that. I feel really good about that, buddy. So,
I can imagine.
It was worth every dime. Trust me, worth every dime. So
So two things that I want to make sure that people know and understand. The first thing is, and I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, like when you're always trying to get to the end and you have the end date in mind, then you tend to miss the things that happen while you're getting to the end because you're so focused on the end, right? And I think what we have to understand is everything gets really kind of tossed together during the last couple weeks, and you wonder if you're going to be able to pull it off because there's so many moving parts. You're going to be able to pull it off. Stay intentional in the moment, be in the moment, have the extra conversation, spend the extra time with the colleagues, spend the extra time with the kids that are graduating, create something that they're going to talk about 10, 15, 20 years from now. And you don't know what that is. I would love to tell you that I know exactly what they're going to remember. We don't get to choose what they remember. But if we give ourselves a chance in terms of volume, if we give ourselves a chance in terms of opportunity right before they leave, there's a better chance that they're going to come back to us in 15 years and talk about that conversation than if we're not intentional and we're just putting our head down to get through the end of the year. So please give yourself an opportunity to create moments that people are going to talk about well beyond the event in which they take place. And you're going to feel better about it. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate it. We look good. Like, I don't know if we've ever looked better. Hang on. You stay right there. Jimmy, just stay right there because I gotta get a picture. I gotta get a picture. People are going, okay, here we go. Look at this. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There we are. Now we're talking. I love it. We gotta go Cricket stuff on. Feeling good. Go Crickets all day. That's what I'm talking about.
And we didn't even plan it. Plan it. That's the cool
I know.
part.
It's crazy. We didn't plan it. It's just the way that it works. It's just
Joe, I've been wearing this for 32 days and hoping that one day you would wear it. So we both had it. So it's 32. It's time. I get to put it in the wash now. Get to put it in the wash, buddy.
My man, that was the first one that we gave out. That's my favorite. I think that's my favorite shirt.
It's old school. I got one of the originals, baby.
I know. That's my favorite shirt. I don't know if the material's not nearly as good as this, but that's my favorite shirt. I think we're gonna go back to it. I'm going back to it. You heard it here first, people. You heard it here first.
I'll have to break out the hashtag Bet Pride next time, buddy. All right. Hey, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. If you get a chance to join us again next weekend, will it be Saturday? Will it be Sunday? We have no idea, but we'll talk during the week and we'll get it figured out. We just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching the reruns, and thank you for sharing it with others. We really appreciate it. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful week. And until next time, be the change. Thanks so much. Peace out.